Hey, boys and girls, moms and dads. Todd Vandermine back for another edition of Freedom Steel. Former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru. So, I don't wear tinfoil a whole lot, but I was going through the semi auto ban the other day, and something dawned on me. And so, if you know, under section 1.9 subpart I, it says it bans any part or combination of parts designed or intended to convert a firearm into an assault weapon, including any combination of parts from which an assault weapon may be readily assembled if those parts are in the possession or under the control of the same person. And I was looking at this, and I started thinking, and I'm wondering, what if the cast of characters, J.B. Pritzker, Kwame Raoul, Senate President Harmon, Speaker Welch, and Bob Morgan, is there anything they could have in common outside of the follically challenged of the bunch? But then it dawned on me. What if the reason behind this particular section is because they all hate Star Wars? And think about it for a minute, because if you're into the Comic-Con thing or the cosplay thing, or if you just happen to be a general fan of Star Wars, you know some of the most iconic things that there are the blasters.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
And there is a whole subculture about this out there where people want replicas, they want props, they want, to be connected with a movie that was, that came out when I was about 10 years old. And there have been things. Look at the whole thing about lightsabers that has just blown up in years with modern machining and everything else. And so people want to be connected to movies that they really have some affinity for. And two of the most iconic blasters that got their fame in the Star Wars, series was Han Solo's blaster and the Stormtroopers. So let's go over these a little bit. So Han Solo's blaster was a C-96 German Mauser broom handle. And so it was modified. They sat there and they added the front coil-looking stuff. They added a flash hider to it, and the original blaster prop was lost, and they made a new one from a casting of a resin prop that they had. And then they turned around and they added the scope, and they did some other stuff to it. And there is a whole entire subculture built around just the authenticity of everything. Go watch Adam Savage on his YouTube channel Untested. He goes into a whole bunch of stuff. He does a whole Han Solo blaster build, if I remember correctly. And there's a lot of guys that when it comes down to this stuff, they just absolutely go into the the minutia on the details. But here, Han Solo's blaster was a C-96. And based on the ban under the features test, you can't have a flash hider on a semi-auto pistol. So if you tried to acquire the parts to manufacture one of these, in particular, a lot of guys try to get some authentic parts. And so you could not obtain legally the parts, because if you had an actual C96, you wanted to cobble it up, or if you had a decommissioned C96, the problem is you still have a combination of parts from which a working firearm could be assembled from. Let's go over to the the Stormtroopers Blaster. So the original E11 blaster that is so used with Stormtroopers, so connected with them, was based on a Sterling submachine gun. Now, why is all this? Well, back in the day, the original 3 Star Wars films were filmed over in England. And because of that, the prop houses over there, I mean, you got to remember, this was the 1970s. World War II wasn't that long ago. And these prop houses were just filled with World War II era firearms. One of the heavy blaster, we'll get into some of the other heavy blasters, but here, look at the Sterling submachine gun and look at what they did to modify it with its underfolding stock. It was just classic for what they did and how they made it. And then they even dialed it up for some of the winter scenes. I think it was for the Battle on Hoth or something. And you've got all that. And you just look at this stuff here. And there are guys. My son is a huge Star Wars geek and has wanted a 9mm blaster, actual functioning blaster, for years and years. And if you wanted to go out and build even a prop gun, even a non-working gun, because you have the parts that could be used to assemble an actual firearm that would be prohibited under this act, it's illegal. You can't do it. So, and if we just take a short trip through some of the blasters that were out there, let me pull up a couple of photos here. Some of the some of the modern stuff guys are building off of ARs, but there are a couple of blasters like the Hoth Blasters that look like they were built off Sturmgewehrs, or possibly one of the modern clones of a Sturmgewehr. And again, you can't get the gun, you get the parts, you're violating the law. And so I have this sneaky suspicion, and even though I call him Pizza the Hut, I think him and the other cast of characters harbor this deep-seated grudge. They got to be closet Trekkies. That's the only answer. They got to be closet Trekkies. They got to dislike, hate on Star Wars to where they don't want any of you fans out there to go out and be able to acquire or make a prop gun. Because now the question is, even though it's a non-working prop gun, if you got actual parts on there, are you committing a felony? And just to show you how deeply I think this runs. So to show how deeply I think this resentment runs, because you can't even categorize these guys as being Sith, because that would mean they would be in the Star Wars universe, and then they would be okay with certain things, but they're not. So here we have a picture of Obi-Wan's lightsaber from episode 1. Now, a couple of parts on this are interesting. So if you look down at the bottom here, right above the bottom pommel, that finned area, well, that finned area is actually a part of a flash hider from an ANM2 Browning 50 cal. This piece right here. So back in the day when they were cobbling together the lightsabers, the prop masters, instead of just going to a CNC machine with a drawing and just making something, they started cobbling things together. There's a really neat thing, and here I'll pull this up. It shows all the parts from Obi-Wan's lightsaber. So 2 components. So if you look over here in the upper left-hand corner, that is a Hales No. 3 Mark I World War II British rifle grenade dummy. That is part of what they used to launch them. Grenade launcher. Oh, remember that was one of the featured items on the features test. You can't have any of those parts. Then they used a clamp from a camera. And over here on the right, we have the Browning ANM2 machine gun booster. That's what it is. Then there's parts of a Rolls-Royce jet engine, and the pommel on the bottom was actually a faucet knob. Those are all the interesting parts of it. But these are parts, and singular parts for prohibited guns are illegal to possess under this law. Now, whether or not some cop is actually going to know that you have and there are guys, the last one of those rifle grenade launchers, an authentic one from between World War I and World War II, I saw went on auction for $3,500. There are guys out there who are trying to build as authentic a saber or a blaster as possible. And so with that, that is part of my theory. That is part of my theory on this Saturday morning, that the cast of characters behind this gun ban have a deep-seated dislike of those iconic movies, Star Wars. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Just a theory, but I think I'm onto something here. So as always, please like, comment, subscribe, copy and paste this link around to social media, your friends, blogs, chat forums, the whole 9 yards. I really think, we can't appreciate you guys enough for the way the channel is growing and things that are happening. Don't forget all the litigation that we're involved with. Links below to help donate to fund the cause. The legal bills are starting to rack up, and we've got to pay those off to keep going down this fight. I will guarantee you that when you see the filings in the next round, that I'll be able to talk about that more come the end of March, the 23rd, once all our filings are in, you'll understand why it's important to fund this end of the fight. It really is. So with that, guys, may the Schwartz be with you, and frag out.